Hi friends, it's Mari here. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. I have a sweet little A2 sized holiday card for you today. I'm going to be using a bunch of products from My Favorite Things to create this sweet little card that you can see on the screen. I'm going to start off here by showing you the stamp set that I'm going to be using. This is the Birdie Brown set called Holiday Penguins. I think this was from last Christmas and it is just so sweet. I love it so much. And I also have the coordinating die set that's sold separately. I'm going to be using some of those dies for the images that I'm going to be stamping out. So now I'll just show you, I'm going to put the Christmas tree and the little penguins that I'm going to be coloring today onto my Misty, and I'm going to just stamp those out with some Copic friendly ink. I am going to be using my alcohol markers today to color in these different sweet little images. So I'm just going to place them into my mini Misty here. I'm just placing them on top of some Nina Classic Crest Solar White 80-pound cardstock, and that is cut down to an A2 size card base. And I'm just going to grab my Memento Tuxedo Black ink. That's that alcohol ink friendly ink pad, just in black here, and I'm going to stamp those images out nice and crisp onto that white cardstock. So I'm getting those all ready to go. I think I do end up stamping them a couple of times just to make sure that the images are nice and crisp. And then I think I even just take my heat tool and dry that ink just a tiny little bit before I go ahead and start coloring, just so that the ink doesn't smear. This Memento ink does dry pretty quickly, but I always just take that extra step just to run my heat tool over top of the ink just for a few seconds, just to make sure that it's nice and dry and ready for that alcohol ink. Just going to take my stamp chamois and clean off those stamps and get those put away, and then I'm going to start my Copic coloring. I'm just going to do some really simple coloring here with my Copics, and I do have the full process here for you. I'm going to throw on a little bit of holiday music here for you to enjoy as I color up these images. Love the color combination on these little images here that I chose, the pinks and the greens and the aquas, and just really fun. And I love these little birdie brown images so much. They're so adorable. So now that I am almost finished with that, I am going to soon be moving on to the next step here. I just want to quickly finish up this little scarf, and then I don't believe I show you the coloring of this second little penguin and the present, but it's just the exact same process that I use for the first little penguin, and I just use the same markers, the same color family for that little penguin and present. Now I'm going to be using some paper from the Christmas Cheer paper pad from My Favorite Things, as well as one of the stitched dome stack dies. Love these dies so much. I've had them in my stash for many years, and I love them as one of my go-to dies from My Favorite Things. And I'm going to just cut out that globe there, and I'm going to use that as the base on my landscape top folding card here. And that's just going to be the perfect little base for my sweet and simple little scene that I'm going to create with this Christmas tree and these two sweet little penguins. So my idea is to put the Christmas tree in the center and then put these two little penguins on either side. And then I'm going to use a sentiment from that same set to add as my greeting for the front of my card. And what I'm doing here is I've cut out a piece of craft foam that's about the same size as the snow globe, just a little bit smaller than that stitched dome die that I used there. And in that way, this is just going to be the perfect dimensional piece behind my pattern paper, so that dome is just going to go ahead and be dimensional on my card base. So I'm going to add a little bit of liquid adhesive on the back of that craft foam as well, and I will put that onto that card base. And I do put something heavy on top of that and let it sit there for a few minutes so that it does get nice and adhered evenly on the project. You'll just see that I am going to center this dome onto my card, and I wanted to leave enough space at the bottom for my sentiment or my greeting below that tree and that penguin. You can see that I'm placing them a little bit low on the card at this point, but I do eventually move them up a little bit once I realize that I needed a little bit more space for my greeting for the front of my card. And I am popping things up on some foam adhesive as well, just to give a little bit more added dimension to my card front. And I do use, as I said, I do use one of the sentiments from that set. And I'm just looking here. I think the sentiment that I chose is a little something for someone who's loved a lot. And I just stamped it in some black VersaFine ink and did a little bit of clear embossing powder over top to make it a little bit shiny and dimensional. And then I just trimmed out the sentiment for the front, using a little bit of clear Wink of Stella on my little penguins and the presents. And I'm going to add a little bit of white gel pen just to add some detail to some of the images. I like to do that. I like my white gel pen just to add a little bit of added detail at the end of my process. I just think it's fun. And it's easy to do, but always make sure that you add the gel pen last so that none of the other things that you're using will move that gel pen and make it smear. Now I am using a little bit of Nouveau Gloss glue. I guess this is just the gloss glaze. And this glaze medium is really great because it just dries really super dimensional and shiny. And I've used that on the Christmas balls on the tree and the little beaks of the penguins and their little feet, and just to create a little bit of dimension in some of those areas. Now this is where I am going to do a little bit of white splatter on my project. So I'm covering up the sentiment that I did add to the bottom area. And this is the last step, and my little sweet card is going to be all finished. Now I did link up to the products that I could find from My Favorite Things in the description box below. I know some of the things might be sold out, but just click the notify me button at MFT and they will let you know when things are back in stock. And I had so much fun making this sweet little holiday card for you today, friends. I hope you enjoyed it too. Hope you were inspired to dig into that stash and find some of those products that you haven't used yet or you haven't used for a while and make something really fun. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day, stay well, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.